or, detained or restrained to ensure that she's safe.
I feel like the next two questions have been asked, but I'll just kind of gloss over them just if you wanted to add anything in addition. So obviously there's a fear of calling 911 with caregivers of loved ones with these type of behaviors. And it sounds like your program is meant to minimize hauling people off to jail when it really could just be an intervention with noble act. So I'm not going to ask you that question. I just spoke it to myself. And you also spoke about in public, because that can kind of change the dynamics too. But all that front loading on getting to know your police department, using the lifesaver options, the 911, what is it? Something 911. Yeah, exactly. So you've really answered in a beautiful way all of our questions. Megan, do you want to ask our last one, which is super important?
Well, I mean, I just kind of want to, is there a way to avoid the possibility of getting arrested? Obviously, I think, it depends on the situation and what exactly happens, but I just think that's something we all fear, because we know the kid's going to get aggressive and it looks bad, without knowing the situation. So is there kind of a way around that?
Not necessarily. That's where it's going to be important for you to advocate what your needs are, right? Ultimately, if there is, a crime, the officer has to make that determination of, is that the most appropriate action is jail? Do I meet the state requirements that address that crime to do that? But as the loved one, that's where you need to come in and, really advocate what you want from the officers. And I go back to, pre-planning. If as much as firefighters, they are what they are in the police rivalry, they pre-plan everything, right? You never see a firefighter running into a fire. It's always a walk. They have a plan. Firefighter A is on the hose, firefighter A is on the hydrant, or B is on the hydrant. Do that with your local law enforcement agency. Is if you respond for, because the nosy neighbor across the street heard yelling and called. These are my wishes whenever you interact with my loved one. Just have that conversation up front. And if you have those meet and greets with your local agencies, you have the alert set up on your residents, on your loved ones. You have a safety plan in place that is, first responder specific. I think that would give officers more benefit and ability to maybe not have to necessarily make that arrest. But ultimately, they're going to have to still follow whatever their policy is for their agency. And if, for example, if a felony happens, policy says I have to make that arrest.
Right.
So just having that conversation with your loved one or your local agency pre-crisis can go a long way to just having that connection. So that way, when the officer looks at you and goes, what do you want to have happen? Do you want them to go to jail or what? Your opinion, your advice will go a very long way.
Okay. So if our police department does not have a unit or officers like you, what can we do to get that put in place?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, sorry. If our police department does not have a unit or officers like you, what can we do to get that put in place?
Speak with your administration, speak with the city or the governing agency, whether the county, the local city. Try to identify officers that have gone through CIT training. If you have an SRO program in your school district, speak with those officers, because, they're going to have connections with the school social workers and counselors and teachers. And just, you need to start picking out who has a motivation to it. It's not going to be successful if the city, appoints Officer Smith to say, just do it. You'll need somebody that is, has a passion for it. it is a growing trend. There are agencies as small as, a couple officers having programs like this. It is, NYPD, IMPD, LA have programs. So it is not, you don't have to live in a big city to have a program like this. It just takes having an officer that's, has a passion for it. And they'll need to hear from the community members that, hey, this is what we want. So data drives everything. Data drives money. It does cost, the department money to have this program. So if you can, speak with them about how many mental health runs is your agency going on, how many times are they doing what's called intermediate detention, that's where they involuntarily hospitalize somebody, how many times are they running on overdoses, that data can help educate the chiefs, the sheriffs, the administrators. Hey, maybe a program kind of similar to Noble Act might be beneficial and help the department in the long run. You always kind of want to phrase it, what's going to help the department a little bit. So if you can use that data to show, hey, if you create a program like this and you spend, maybe some money up front, you'll actually save thousands of dollars on the back end by not having to respond to Susie's house 5 times in a week. Now that response is going down to once a month to once every few years. And you can start seeing that, and it actually shows financially, not just anecdotally. I didn't say that right. In the stories of successes, but you'll see it on spreadsheets in dollar amounts as well.
Are you, I'm assuming you're tracking your data and you're starting to measure that stuff, and, when are you hoping, or do you already see successes? What, how does it look like for your program?
We've seen tons of successes so far. It's funny. So when we created this program, part of, my goal is to reduce our hospitalizations. Is instead of somebody saying the buzzword of whatever, oh, that's a trip to the hospital, when that's not the right level of care. And that could be more traumatizing for some individuals. So my goal is to get those numbers down. Ironically, they've gone up this past year, but I attribute that to more knowledge on the officers of understanding what mental health is and the need to support, and not just say suck it up and don't do that again, like the old adage. So it was kind of a funny thing of seeing that those numbers go up, but it was because of the knowledge, and officers now recognizing what was a crime was now a crisis, a mental health issue, and addressing it that way. And I have anecdotal stories of individuals who've gotten into treatment, frequent flyers that used to call us all the time that now we're not having to respond to. And I'm seeing it in our officer, what's the term? Buy-in. So our officers are buying into the program more and more. They're sending me referrals. They're asking me to come out and help them out, so that way they can get back to the road and do the fun police stuff that they wanted to do. Right.
Yeah. Very cool. How can we support your programming? Either, here, obviously in Noblesville, but elsewhere. I mean, what can groups like us do to support already in existence programs? Is there anything?
Just spreading the word, just getting, even though you may not be in Noblesville, but, letting your community know, hey, Noblesville has this program. I encourage agencies, all across the state have called me to ask what we do, to how they implement things. So I'm always happy to share how we got started, data that we have, resources that I have to get these programs out there even more in Indiana. Because the more programs like this one, I know Fishers in Hamilton County, Carmel in Hamilton County, they're creating programs like this. It'll allow us to share information and resources even more efficiently, and ultimately it better my program too if there are other programs out there. So we can do best practices, we can share resources, share contacts, and things of that nature.
So we'll probably, because we're statewide for a virtual support group, and one of the things we'll be recommending is obviously start those connections with your local police department. Are you okay if we refer them to you if they don't have a program?
Yep. If their program, if their agency is interested in, starting a program,